One of my favorite new partners is Warrior Salt. We talk on the show. We're trying to empower you to mind, body, and energy. Energy starts with being hydrated. Let me tell you, after a workout and if you're eating a healthy diet, it's hard to get enough sodium. Well, you wouldn't believe it. We were coached for so long that sodium's bad, but that's why I love this partner. No BS, just electrolytes. They keep it simple. We're talking about fruit powder and salt. There's no stevia, no citric acid, none of the bad stuff, just the stuff you need to stay hydrated. That's what I'm doing. I go to a workout, before workout, after workout. You need it both. If you're thirsty, you've waited too long. That's the point. With Warrior Salt, again, it's all about simple hydration that you need without anything that you don't want. One of the official partners here of Vibe Science as we take you to your highest vibe.
People will say, porn's just a bad habit. No, being late's a bad habit. Like it's under your control. And the easiest way to think about it scientifically too is that like habits start as use. You're using something, then you misuse it, which means you're using it too much, too frequently, too consistently, too much of it, too much intensity when it comes to porn. Then it's abuse. You're supposed to be at work, but instead you're watching porn. This is where most people are. They're stuck. They can't make new choices. They can't choose new behaviors because they're stuck in a neuro-rigid, locked-in pattern of most people need dopamine in today's day and age. We know that now with social media in the mix, that identity formation in young people isn't happening internally. People don't know who they are anymore. Social media is very much at the root of identity dysfunction. So what's real really matters on who you are.
This is Vibe Science, a top 100 wellness podcast presented by the Radcast Network, breaking wellness barriers and making health truly personal. Here are your hosts, Ryan Alford and Chris Hansen.
Hello, and welcome to Vibe Science. We're here to take you to your highest vibe. It's about mind, body, energy, as we help you navigate to that best place, whatever that may be for you. We don't know it all. We just bring the best and brightest that we have across the globe. That's why today we have Dr. Trish Leigh. She is the author of Mind Over Explicit Matter. And, as a title person, I really like that title, Doctor. But welcome to the show.
It's pretty cool, right? It was actually named Mind Over Porn first, and the publishing company convinced me, but I took a 2-week deliberation to be convinced. But now I love it.
I like it. I love it. I wouldn't have minded the grab you of Mind Over Porn, but I think there's something a little more sophisticated and maybe interesting about explicit matter.
Definitely. And I think it covers a wider range of topics that maybe we want to get into today. So, yeah. Well, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. We talk about it, mind, body, energy, and I think we're going to kind of cover the gamut here, even though I think at its core, we're talking neuro brain things, how you help people and how, like your book and these terrible addictions that we all have, one shape or form, no addiction's better than another. They're all unhealthy on some level. And I'm sure you see that every day, don't you?
I do. Yes.
Across everything.
Yeah. To me, the idea is it's a compulsion. You have to do it not to feel bad. That's what I think is the worst part of it. And people know this. They know they need that thing just to get through days. I don't, and your message is we don't want people to do that. We want people to, elevate their minds and get their bodies in shape. And then I'm all about energy too. All my work is tuning up the electromagnetic energy in a person's system. And that goes so far.
We're going to talk a lot. I know I can already tell how fucking smart you are. So let me just say that right now. Go ahead and get that out of the way.
Thanks.
How did you get so damn smart?
The good old fashioned way. Actually, I talk about it in the book too. So not to bring it back to the book, but part of my story, I really love personality types. I use one particular indexing called the Enneagram. If you know anything about it, it's super cool. But I'm a type 5. And the reason that's important is we all develop personality types when we're young, when our identity formation is happening. And this very much relates to our discussion on addiction. And for me, knowledge became a way for me to be seen. And I come from a family of 6. I have 5 brothers and sisters. So in a big family, being the smart one is the thing that got me seen. So honestly, in my journey, sharing everything I know, so I'm no longer smarter than anybody else because I tell everybody everything I know, is a really good way for me to stay healthy and stay out of what I call self-righteousness.
Oh, interesting. I like it. Mm-hmm. I mean, Chris, how are you doing today, brother? You looking good, man. I've been seeing these videos. Chris is, I mean, you know, we talk about mind, body, energy. Chris is getting it all right now.
I'm dialed in. I'm like Doc said, you got to really push to be that. I think you said like that 1% or whatever the word was, but we're getting attacked at all angles, man. I'm just trying to freaking not just live, but thrive and do it in a healthy way. Because I've had a lot of failure doing it the other ways.
Well, that's delayed gratification instead of instant gratification, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
But the gratification is delayed after some challenges and some hard work. So it's worth it, man. It makes it better than the instant, payoff of a quick fix.
I'm going to ask a layup to start, Doctor.
Sure.
Can we really train our brains?
Oh, yeah. That's the full question. Beautiful.
That's it.
I thought there was more.
I started with a layup because
totally,
as simple as that question is, I don't think people quite realize that you can. And I know that I sort of knew the answer, but I want you to expand upon how you do and the reality of that.
Yeah, I love that. And I appreciate the layup question because I think it's the solution to people's problems, especially like if they're stuck, if their mind and their body is stuck. This is where most people are, they're stuck. They can't like make new choices. They can't choose new behaviors because they're stuck in a neuro-rigid, locked in pattern of most people need dopamine in today's day and age. So in my work, I can visualize how people's brains are performing and how far away from the optimal performance pattern their brain is working in all areas. So areas and levels of dysfunction can be seen and visualized. And once people see it, then what I do, I have my own app now, which is really wonderful. I collaborate with the largest software company in the world with what I do in terms of brain training. And I can set very specific protocols, many of which I designed because other people don't know about this. And without a person having to try with their mind or body, can shift their brain from where it is to closer towards that optimal brain pattern, ideally getting to the optimal pattern. It is so much easier than people know. And it's all scientific. Every single thing I do has data. I can see data every single day. People can see their brains change in real time.
What allows that? I mean, we've had a few people on, Chris and I have done a few different shows and different things, but especially here, like mind neuroplasticity and mind mapping. But exactly what are you using to get the readouts that you do?
Sure. Yeah. So the easiest way to think about it, well, I can tell you exactly what I use. The first thing that I do is called a QEEG brain map. It uses EEG, electroencephalogram. So I can see how a person's brain's using electrical energy. But that's what is basically, driving the bus. It's the software up in the hardware. From there, I use a modality called neurofeedback, which if you've had other people on, neurofeedback, which thankfully I'm one of the leading providers in the world. I'm basically the leading provider when it comes to pornography or explicit matter or screen addictions. And these are the protocols that other people don't know about, and I can share more about that. But basically, every time you put the tech on and you open the app, you're giving your brain a workout. So the analogy I use is, Chris has been hitting the gym. You don't need a therapist to tell you what you need to do to get stronger biceps. You just have to hit the gym and do bicep curls. And you start at 20 pounds and then it gets easier. So then you move up to 30 pounds. It gets easier. You move up to 40. You can't take much time off. You've got to hit the gym. But once you hit a level of fitness, you can maintain that with relative ease. That's exactly what happens in the app. When you do a session, it uses something called operant conditioning. Operant conditioning is basically how all things change. You get reinforced on an intermittent schedule, but basically it's leveling your brain up. It automatically thresholds. It makes it more challenging, keeps moving your brain in the right direction. All measurable.
Is this I'm wanting like the physical, like, is it something you put on your head?
Yeah, I don't have mine here. It is a headband. Okay. So I also collaborate with a company that makes this headband, and it has sensors across the frontal lobe, sensors in the earpiece, the temporal lobe, and it has a detachable sensor that can reach any of the central or regions that aren't in the headband. That's the hardware. And then my app is the software.
What's the difference between a bad habit and an addiction?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I make that distinction because people say, porn's just a bad habit. No, being late's a bad habit. Like it's under your control. And the easiest way to think about it scientifically too is that like habits start as use, right? You're using something. Then you misuse it, which means you're using it too much, too frequently, too consistently, too much of it, too much intensity when it comes to porn. Then it's abuse. You're supposed to be at work, but instead you're watching porn. Then this is where the bridge happens from a habit to a compulsion or addiction. Compulsion is you have to do it. The choice there is no longer, it's not there. And so you have to do it. And now it's to not feel bad instead of feel good. But, most addictions do start as habits because it is still under your control. And then a compulsion, as it ramps up and you need it, that's when people will, admit to themselves they have a full-blown addiction, which that can be very difficult. That's why I like to use the word compulsion because people get, I have to use it.
Mm-hmm. It's like, as humans, we're always going to, I don't know. What's what makes us human? We make decisions that aren't always perfect. And you don't ever want to make excuses for that. But it's like, there's always this fine line of knowing, okay, this was, some people can drink once a month and they get a terrible hangover and they go, but they're not drinking every day. Well, it'd be great if they didn't do it at all. So it's like, I guess my mind gets around this, where do we divide human perfection from bad habit to the slippery slope that we're kind of talking about, right?
Yeah, it's really tricky. But also, like, I also think of it as, can you have a heroin habit?
No.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
true.
like if you have a heroin habit, that is a compulsion. And then especially like, there's a lot of people who have compulsive masturbation habits. Nobody wants to be stuck in their bathroom 3 times a day masturbating for a dopamine hit. Like, a lot of people will have defense mechanisms to justify that, high libidos or super stressful work. But, ultimately, there's nobody who wants to have to masturbate frequently. Right. And then they'll recognize, I have to masturbate.
Why does it seem that this skews male? It does, right? Mm-hmm. It does. Why is it that way? Why are us men so afflicted?
So part of it comes from good old-fashioned evolution that's been significantly distorted by porn. And you'll hear people from the misinformation camp or the disinformation camp. Misinformation, people just don't know, ignorance is bliss type of thing. Disinformation is they're acutely aware of how dangerous porn is for people. And what they'll say is, high-speed internet porn, why does that matter? Well, the reason it matters is now, there's a bevy of whatever thing is your dopamine producing scene, person, scenario, whatever it is. And that's where the real danger comes in. So it's targeted to men. And then it works so well because evolutionarily, men's brains look for younger, fertile, reproductive women. But obviously that's super distorted when it comes to porn or anything digital because you could never mate with that person.
And you can tell it by, not us, but a lot of podcasts that are male podcasts are sponsored by all the ED, like Blue Chew and like all these young, like Barstool, right? All these younger geared. Yeah. And I was talking to some guys about this recently where I'm like, when I was young, that the only guys you heard about Viagra was old guys and it was a joke. And you didn't even, it wasn't even in my scope of range. Now, if I go into a doctor's office, there's 10 different ED companies, Hims, Roman Health, whatever. And every male targeted podcast is sponsored by those companies. And I'm like, why is that?
Yeah.
Gambling and boner meds.
Exactly. Yep.
I've been married the second time for 10 years and I'm very attracted to my wife. And like, I can't imagine not being, that would just suck, like.
Yeah, it does. People are really distraught.
Talking with Dr. Trish Leigh. She is the author of Mind Over Explicit Matter, which is what we're talking about, that explicit matter. Talk to me about like how you see the brain move and like what happens when we go from one state to the other and some of the specific techniques that you're doing and working with people, doctor.
Yeah, sure. So basically the way that I describe it is we want our brains to be able to move just like you're talking about in terms of what electrical frequency your brain's using. I call them gears in the brain. I use a lot of car analogies just to make it easy. We want our brains to act like automatic transmissions. If you drive an automatic transmission, you don't have to think about the gears. So the idea is if a brain is regulated, it shows up as green on the QEEG brain map that I perform, which I don't see really ever because of the nature of, honestly, I think with screens, that optimal will end up changing. There won't be green brain maps anymore just because optimal people won't really exist. It'll be the 1%. But I can see if a person's brain is close to using the automatic transmission or if it's more like a manual transmission jammed in a gear. And I've identified two really strong patterns that come along with porn addiction and with PIED, porn-induced erectile dysfunction. The one I call strained brain, the other one I call drained brain, just to make it easy. So strained brain's a brain that is wired and tired simultaneously. And, back to the automatic transmission car analogy is it's like you're driving around town, but you have your pedal to the metal on the acceleration or the gas and your foot's on the brakes also. Obviously trashes your transmission, right? And then the other is drain brain that leads to ED. Drain brain is your brain stuck in neutral. Brutal. That is what leads to arousal dysfunction. It can't go.
It makes me think about like this broader lens of reality with AI and everything, like of what's real and what's not. And what are we paying for? What's transactive or, versus natural life? Because I'm going to go down a road here. just follow me, Doc. And then
I'm probably already with you. So go for it because my mind's already there.
It's what's real, what's not, like dividing the line. And then I'm going to take it a step further. A lot of people get married for the wrong reasons. And is that real? A woman marries a man because he's got money. A man marries a woman because she's young and attractive, but there's not a real connection. Where is the line of real and not real? And what should we pay for and what should be real?
Here's my thoughts on it. It goes back to something I already started to say is we know this from a lot of scientific studies. I love the science on this, but I do like to take the science and make sure people understand the practical usage of it. We know that now with social media in the mix, that identity formation in young people isn't happening internally. People don't know who they are anymore. Yeah. Social media is very much at the root of identity dysfunction. So what's real really matters on who you are. And it goes back to your premise of mind, body, and energy. You need to know. And in my book, in Mind Over Explicit Matter, I talk all about this. You need to figure out who you are. And then you validate that internally. And then you move through the world in a way that allows you to be on purpose, where you can feel that intrinsic value. Not a like, not a heart, not because someone's going to give you money, not it's then what that forms is what's known as interdependent relationships, not codependent relationships. Codependent is your classic Jerry Maguire, you complete me. If you don't need to be completed, you can enter into a relationship with someone, and now you have two whole people who get to move through the world together and have a super fun time doing it. And I will tell you, admittedly, because it's in the book and I told you I'm an open book, I totally had a codependent relationship with my husband. We've been married 23 years. We have 5 kids. And that's what I was taught by my parents. So I met my husband and I'm like, this is amazing. He completes me. Let me put it this way. This man does not complete me anymore in a really good way. We've learned to look at all the holes within our own psyches and fill them ourselves. And then we had to create the opportunity to allow the other person to, because, you learn to be a fixer to a certain extent. And so that's the solution. But, now discerning reality from AI or unreality can be very difficult. But the more grounded you are internally, it's so easy to spot. And my clients will say this too.
Interesting. So how much change do you see in your clients? And can we truly reverse these addictions?
We can. And my program is 4 months long. This is the missing piece that I was trying to say. If you try to white knuckle it and willpower it and only use your distorted mind and your body that has dopamine dependencies, it's a rough road. But when I work with people, within the first month, I will see people's brains shift like a 180. It changes so quickly. When your brain changes that quickly, and I tell people, don't even try to do anything different in the first month. Because people will be like, should I stop drinking coffee? No, because you're depending on it as a stimulant and you might go to more porn if you do. So the first 30 days, just do the training, just work your brain, create more neuroplasticity, get the downward spiral, make it an upward spiral. It's a negative feedback loop. They're called feedback loops in neuroscience. 30 days later, the brain's in a different spot. Then we start synergizing with the mind and body. And 4 months later, people have achieved their goals, or they're so well on their way to doing so, they measurably see it, plus they know it. So after that, people can stay in the program as long as they want. And I have some people who've stayed for a decade because they love it.
It's interesting. We talk all the time, or, as a society thing, like going to the gym and all these things that you physically do, and train, you have a trainer and all this. I mean, brain training is real. And you can't do this shit alone. You got to have, I'm not saying you can't make progress, but you need tools. You need these tools.
You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah,
that's exactly right. And it shortens the time frame of success in all the challenging things that people are trying to do. And they're in every area of peak performance. There are people using this technology right now and talking about it. Like Netflix Quarterback, one of the episodes is basically fully on this technology. Kirk Cousins uses it as a quarterback. There's many people in professional athletics, a lot of attorneys, peak performers. It's neurofeedback. So biofeedback's kind of old school, where you have to use your mind to change your physiology. Now you can just use your brain to change your physiology without having to think about it. It's passive. I think that's why it's so powerful, because you don't have to learn how to do it.
Got it.
It will do it itself.
It's back to, I talk about this a lot. In the modern world, we've gotten everything so convenient and easy. And it's back to what you're saying. Kids not growing up properly because they haven't had to develop an identity, because everything's been handed to them. It's easy. And they haven't had to learn to overcome and to make difficult decisions and be uncomfortable. And our lack of discomfort is not training us to become real, good human beings.
No, that's the whole simp culture, or, glazing.
Yeah.
It's the idea of where at the click of a button, you can get someone to validate you, or I could have food here in 7 minutes. You know what I mean? Instead of, that's instant gratification opposed to delayed gratification. And, as a mom of 5 young adults, it's very difficult actually, because I told you I grew up codependent, meaning like if my kids want something, to fill that need for them feels really good to me.
Yeah.
But I will actively not do that. I will let them suffer. My one son, he's 21 now, but 2 years ago, he got a speeding ticket, 109 miles per hour. That man, he had to pay for his own attorney. He barely had the money, but I'm like,
and I was
sorry, bro, I'm here for you. Like, if you want me to emotionally support you, I got you, but you're going to need an attorney. He lost his license for 3 months, devastated, but real world hardship consequences from the behaviors. That's how kids learn. And they always grow. And my one daughter, who now is 20, I had to, after multiple opportunities for her to earn it, I had to cancel her phone number because of the back and forth with a couple very toxic young men on social media. I'm like, you either use this in a healthy way, it's a privilege, or you don't get it. And I took it away from her and she went off the rails, absolutely off the rails. And I'm like, once you are no longer freaking out about this, you can have your phone back the next day. That never happened. And I said, if you continue to freak out, I'm canceling the phone number. And then you have to, all that was very challenging for me though. But in hindsight, she thanks me. She's like, that was the strength you had for me so that I could learn to be strong. Amazing, right? That's the opportunities we got to give our kids.
Yeah, I have 4 boys under the age of 15. So I'm living it daily, like you have all these creature comforts and you have the means and ways to do things and you want to provide for your kids, but you also want to make sure you're not just handing it all to them and that they're not you want them to learn to be resourceful and to be, I don't know, like the challenges of life are there because what's on the other end of it is a reward that you earned and that you weren't given. And it's a hard thing, as a parent, because you have to find the line. Hey, there's no perfect rule book or guide or anything like that of knowing what that line is of, okay, because even sometimes me, like, I have a 10-year-old or 9-year-old, he'll be 10 soon and he looks like a 12-year-old, but and he's playing football and he's the baby, the youngest. And it's like this fine line of being the tough dad versus like, sticking this out when he's not truly, there's nothing wrong. Like when, he thinks he's hot or something and he's obviously hot, but he's just uncomfortable. And yes.
You're not going to burst into flame. Yeah, I know.
I'm like, I know. Is he actually going to die on the way to the hospital, like from a heat exhaustion, or is he just being a baby?
Yeah.
I know. It is. It's absolutely a fine line. And what I've learned to do is like these are boundaries we're talking about. People are terrible people aren't that bad at setting boundaries. Holding the boundary, very difficult. Like, so I've set the boundaries and then you have to hold them as a parent. And it is, for me, it's very challenging. It's funny because my girlfriends and I had my white winter coat. It was great. I loved it. This parka thing that my husband bought me. And my daughter rides horses and she forgot to bring her coat. And she was freezing, but I could sit in the car. So I gave her my white coat and she destroyed it, of course, because it's involved with horses. So later on that night, I went to see my friends and I'm like, who would give their kid their white coat? Who wouldn't? And it was 50-50.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? My one friend, she's like, I'm totally giving away my new white coat. My other 2 friends are like, no, they didn't bring a coat. They can freeze. So I'm like, really interesting. So some parents don't struggle with that. The boundaries are easy, but a lot do, especially when codependency. But, you're trying to make your kid strong. That's what interdependent is, which is really cool. It's paid off in dividends for me because as my kids have grown into adulthood, they just like me as a person. They don't always need something. And going back to your question, Chris, like codependency is the need to be needed. It's addictive for a lot of people. The need to be needed.
I've been in it before, for sure.
Right. And so like that is to be needed as a mom feels really good. But I'm like, you know what? These kids have to learn how to depend on themselves. So, it's been a gift for me to be able to change that.
And I even saw my own parents with my addiction, like have to let me kind of suffer, right? I had to learn my hard lessons. And I remember I called him from jail trying to bail me out. And they said, nope. And to this day, I thank them for that. That was one of the best things, but I can hear my mom's voice still to this day on the phone and the pain, but I am so thankful that she was strong enough to hold her ground in that situation, because that was a hard lesson for me. But you know, we're almost in a world now where if you're not actively trying, at least I see this with my nephews, my 4 boy nephews and my brother-in-laws, I see them actively having to push my nephews into uncomfortable situations. And everyone's consciously knowing the society we live in is kind of soft, where we have to kind of introduce these difficult situations, right? And I think we're seeing that now with a lot of younger guys, at least I'm seeing down here, like in the gym. We're having to reframe like, hey, suffering is a privilege. Like, this is how you grow and evolve. Like, welcome that pain. Well, and the gym is just the easiest analogy, right? Because through that pain, you get stronger. But I remind myself that all the time. I know Ryan and I have multiple businesses and we've had our ups and downs, where now it's just that even me, I'm like, all right, bring it on, because it's evolution, it's growth. It might not look great on the books right now, but it will pay off in other ways, right?
Yeah. And that's how you leave it on the floor. You know, what's life about? You know, we have a generation of people who their life is about how do you get pleasure as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Dr. Leigh, where can everybody keep up with everything you're doing?
Yeah, sure. My website is drtrishleigh.com. From there, you can get to all roads lead to all the things I have going on. I have a podcast. I have an active YouTube channel where if you are struggling with porn or explicit matter, there's over 2,000 videos. It's become a resource for people in and of itself. Of course, the book, Mind Over Explicit Matter, there's also a tab on my website, drtrishleigh.com, but you can get it anywhere they sell books. So that's really cool. It debuted #1 in its category. I think it's still up there, but it was in front of Your Brain on Porn, which was a really cool, homage to Gary Wilson, who wrote that, who's passed. So yeah, at my website, you can learn about my programs. I write blog posts every single week, helping people to understand this. When it comes to porn and explicit matter, you know, we've only hit the surface here. It's very deep. It's very complex. And many people figure that out, but they don't know how to, unravel all of it. So I'm always trying to help people with information. And then of course, with my programs.
We really appreciate the value you're adding to the world and for fighting the good fight.
Yeah.
I'm trying. I'm on a mission.
Chris, any final thoughts today?
I just think it's freaking awesome. I'm going to definitely check your YouTube channel. And I know a lot of people that could benefit from this. This episode excites me. I think this is just a huge topic that's not talked about nearly enough. And I'm glad that we're addressing it. And you got a great way of putting things. And I'm really excited to drop this episode for everyone to hear this.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I want people to know too, it's a transformational journey, because that's what you all are about. Like, it's not about quitting porn. Porn is a symptom of those deeper problems that we talked about your identity, about what you want from this world and to contribute. At the end of quitting porn, you've transformed. And people are so psyched when they know that's happened. It is just, you get to live the whole rest of your life as the way that you wanted and you envisioned when you were young, before your brain got derailed by dopamine. So that's what's there for the taking if people get jazzed up about it. So transformation.
I'm living it now. I never thought I would stop watching porn. It's been like 4 years, and it's
amazing, right?
Yeah, and my relationships are 10 times better. It's just, it pays off in dividends in a million different ways.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
We really appreciate Dr. Trish Leigh. Always appreciate my brother Chris down in Miami. Hey, look, we're just helping you find your best path. We don't have all the answers, but we're here to empower you to your highest vibe. We'll see you next time on Vibe Science.
The content discussed on this show is provided for reference and educational purposes. The content is not an attempt to practice medicine or provide specific medical advice. Always consult your personal physician for medical advice and proper diagnosis.
Thanks for listening. This is Vibe Science. To learn more or watch full episodes, visit vibesciencepodcast.com. Here's to discovering your highest vibe